They had the talent, they had the hype, some were even referred to as the next big thing. But somewhere along the line, bad decisions, injuries, or just plain laziness, they threw it all away. This isn't just a list of busts. This is about players who had everything to become legends, but blew it. Well, let's talk about it. Ryan Leaf. Let's start with the biggest what if in NFL history. Ryan Leaf. This guy was the second overall pick in the 1998 NFL Draft, right after Peyton Manning. At the time, there were real debates about who was the better prospect. Leaf had the size, the arm strength, and the college resume. He looked like he was built for the NFL, but it all fell apart fast. He wasn't just bad on the field, he was a disaster off it. He clashed with coaches, disrespected teammates, and didn't take accountability. There's a now infamous moment where he screamed at a reporter in the locker room, and that just summed up his mentality. He lacked the maturity to handle the pressure. His career lasted just 3 seasons with 14 touchdowns and 36 interceptions. From being the face of a franchise to being out of the league in no time, that's how quickly it went downhill. And speaking of top picks who fizzled just as fast, Jamarcus Russell. Jamarcus Russell was drafted #1 overall in 2007, and at first glance it made sense. He had a rocket for an arm and had just lit up Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. But once he got to the NFL, everything unraveled. He came into the league with all the physical tools, but none of the discipline. There were stories about coaches giving him blank DVDs labeled game film just to see if he was watching, and he came back pretending like he had. That's how little effort he put in. He showed up out of shape, had poor footwork, and had no idea how to read defenses. Despite all the potential, he finished his career with just 18 touchdowns and 23 interceptions in 3 seasons. He made more headlines for his contract size than anything he did on the field. But not every downfall is about laziness. Sometimes it's about demons you just can't shake. And nobody showed that better than the next name. But before we talk about the next name, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon might be the most frustrating player on this list because when he was on the field, he was unstoppable. In 2013, he led the entire league in receiving yards, and he missed 2 games. That's not normal. He had elite speed, incredible hands, and an ability to separate that only a few receivers ever have. He was a nightmare for defenders, but his off-field problems, mainly drug-related suspensions, kept dragging him down. Year after year, he'd get suspended, then reinstated, then suspended again. He had multiple chances to turn things around, and each time it slipped away. You could tell the league wanted him to succeed. Fans were rooting for him, but the consistency just wasn't there. He ended up bouncing between teams, never coming close to that 2013 form again. Now, if Josh Gordon's story was about lost discipline, the next one is a full-blown case of self-destruction. Johnny Manziel, aka Johnny Football, came into the NFL with more hype than most rookies ever get. He was a Heisman winner, he had swagger, and he played with that improvisational style that reminded people of a young Brett Favre. Cleveland thought they had finally found their guy. But Manziel didn't take the job seriously. He treated the NFL like college, still partying, still skipping film sessions, still acting like nothing could touch him. His talent was real, but the preparation wasn't. He made more news for his nightlife than his play. Even his teammates reportedly lost faith in him. In just 2 seasons, it was over. He left behind a trail of missed chances and a reputation that became more about what he could have been. And then there's someone who didn't blow it with lifestyle choices, but just flat out didn't perform when the moment came. Trent Richardson. Trent Richardson is one of those names that still gets brought up in every bust conversation for a reason. He was the 3rd overall pick in 2012, and coming out of Alabama, he looked like the next great running back. Physical, explosive, and productive in college, he checked all the boxes. But once he hit the NFL, it was clear something was wrong. He couldn't hit the right gaps, his vision was poor, and he looked indecisive. His rookie season was okay statistically, but if you watch the tape, he just didn't have the instinct for the position. After that, his performance plummeted. He got traded to the Colts for a 1st-round pick, but that experiment ended in disaster too. He eventually drifted out of the league, never living up to even a fraction of the hype. Next up is someone who did show dominance, but only until he cashed in and quit trying. Albert Haynesworth. He was once a dominant force on the defensive line. In 2008, he was an absolute nightmare for offenses. Fast, powerful, disruptive. That season earned him a massive contract with Washington. 7 years, $100 million. At the time, it was historic. He was expected to be the anchor of their defense for years. But once he got paid, everything changed. His effort dropped. His conditioning got worse. He showed up to camp out of shape, refused to adapt to the new defensive scheme, and was constantly in the headlines for the wrong reasons. Coaches called him out publicly. He even failed a basic conditioning test. The team gave him every chance, but he clearly wasn't interested anymore. From all-pro to irrelevant in under 2 seasons. Haynesworth's decline wasn't just about physical regression, it was a choice. He stopped showing up mentally and physically. Now some players get the money and lose motivation. Others burn out from pressure and expectation. That was the story with the next name, Vince Young. In college, he was a superstar. His performance in the 2006 Rose Bowl against USC is still one of the greatest in football history. He was drafted 3rd overall by the Titans and started his career strong, winning games and making highlight plays. But the cracks started to show quickly. He struggled with consistency, reading defenses, and managing the playbook. Off the field, there were reports of emotional struggles and poor relationships with coaches. He lacked the support system and the maturity to handle the NFL spotlight. There were games he played well, but you could see his confidence gradually breaking down. He was out of the league way earlier than anyone expected. All the talent, all the hype, but the transition from college to the pros overwhelmed him. And then there's the case of a player who could have been the face of the league until injuries changed everything. Robert Griffin III, RGE. RG's rookie season was something special. He came into the NFL in 2012 and immediately transformed Washington's offense. He was dynamic, smart, and a true dual-threat quarterback. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year and led the team to the playoffs. For a moment, it looked like a new era had begun, but then came the knee injury, and everything shifted. He tore his ACL in the playoff game and was rushed back too soon. From there, his mobility never looked the same. Washington's offensive system didn't evolve to protect him, and his play deteriorated fast. He struggled with decision-making, accuracy, and confidence. The physical setback was one thing, but the franchise mismanagement and the pressure to return early made things worse. RGIA never got back to that rookie level. It was a short, brilliant flash that faded too quickly. But while RGI's decline was largely injury-driven, the next player's downfall was all about lack of discipline and wasted potential. Dorial Green-Beckham. Dorial Green-Beckham had the frame, the speed, and the hands to be a dominant NFL wide receiver. At 6'5", he looked like a clone of Calvin Johnson. His talent was never in question, but his attitude, focus, and off-field behavior raised red flags even before he entered the draft. He slipped in the draft due to character concerns, but Tennessee still took a shot. On the field, he flashed ability, deep ball threat, size mismatch, but he never developed as a route runner. He didn't put in the work, and it showed. Coaches questioned his effort. He got traded to the Eagles, but his issues followed him. His career lasted just 2 seasons. No major injury, no devastating moment. He just didn't take the job seriously enough to last. And finally, we end with one of the most unique stories. Someone who was built to play quarterback, but whose personal demons never let him reach his ceiling. Todd Marinovich. Todd Marinovich was different. He was groomed from birth to be the perfect quarterback. His father, a former NFL lineman, controlled his training, his diet, and even his lifestyle from childhood. By the time he reached USC, people were already calling him Robo-QB. He had the mechanics, the intelligence, the poise. He was drafted in the 1st round by the Raiders in 1991 with massive expectations, but Marinovich had been pushed too hard, too fast. By the time he reached the NFL, he was already burned out and struggling with addiction. He started a few games, showed flashes, but couldn't stay clean. Substance abuse dominated his career. He failed multiple drug tests, got suspended, and eventually faded into obscurity. His story isn't about lack of talent. It's about a lack of freedom and a life dominated by pressure. Lawrence Phillips. Lawrence Phillips was the kind of running back who terrified defenses. He had power, burst, and a violent running style that made him nearly unstoppable at Nebraska. He was a 1st-round pick in 1996, and a lot of people genuinely believed he could be one of the best to ever play the position. But from day one, off-field issues followed him. Legal troubles, arrests, and a history of violent behavior overshadowed anything he did on the field. Even coaches like Dick Vermeil, who desperately wanted to help him turn things around, couldn't get through to him. He got chances with the Rams, Dolphins, and 49ers, but he burned every bridge. His inability to stay out of trouble ruined any hope of longevity. Eventually, his life spiraled so far out of control that he ended up in prison, where he later died under tragic circumstances. Lawrence Phillips is one of the darkest examples of wasted potential. It wasn't about injuries or bad coaching. It was a complete inability to control the chaos in his own life. And from one off-field spiral to another, this next player had it all too, but couldn't escape the same self-destruction. Titus Young. Titus Young had the skills to be a star wide receiver. Drafted by the Detroit Lions in the 2nd round of the 2011 draft, he had elite speed, great hands, and the ability to stretch the field. In his rookie season, he showed flashes, big plays, touchdowns, everything you want in a young receiver. But But it wasn't long before things started falling apart. He clashed with coaches, got benched for disciplinary issues, and was eventually released after just 2 seasons. That's not normal for a player with his talent. After Detroit, he was picked up by the Rams but didn't even make it to training camp. From there, things got worse. He was arrested multiple times in a short span, reportedly dealt with serious mental health issues, and completely fell out of the league. Titus Young's story is painful because the raw talent was obvious. But football requires more than physical ability. You have to be mentally stable, disciplined, and grounded. He had none of that in place, and it ended his career before it ever really began. And there you have it. 12 players who had the talent to become legends, but lost it all before they ever got close. Some were crushed by pressure, some by injuries, others by poor choices or demons they couldn't outrun. But the result was the same: wasted potential. These stories aren't just about failure. They're a reminder of how brutal the NFL is. It's not enough to be fast, strong, or gifted. You have to be focused. You have to be disciplined. And most importantly, you have to be ready for the weight that comes with being great. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out our last 2 videos.